On a cold March morning in 1922, neighbors in Bavarian countryside began to worry about the Gruber family. They had missed church. The children had not appeared at school. The farm at Hinterkaifeck, usually alive with the sound of animals and work, sat strangely silent. After days of unease, a small group of villagers forced their way onto property. In the dark interior of the barn, they saw what at first looked like a heap of straw and tools. When they pulled the hay aside, they uncovered 4 bodies: the strict patriarch Andreas Gruber, his daughter Victoria, and 2 of the grandchildren, their skulls crushed by a heavy farming mattock. Inside the farmhouse, the horror continued. The new maid lay dead in her bed. The youngest child had been killed in her crib. And then came the detail that turned a brutal murder into a lasting nightmare. In the days after the killings, smoke had still risen from the chimney. The animals had been fed, and food had been eaten in the kitchen. Whoever had slaughtered the family had stayed on the farm, calmly living among the dead. Hinterkaifeck itself was an isolated, aging farmstead, surrounded by fields and forests, roughly an hour's journey from Munich. The man who ruled it, Andreas Gruber, was known in the nearby village as a hard, often cruel figure, a farmer who demanded obedience and made enemies easily. Living with him was his adult daughter, Victoria, a church-going woman with a good reputation in public, but a deeply troubled private life. Years earlier, Andreas and Victoria had both been convicted of incest, an open wound that never fully healed in village gossip. Her younger children, including little Kazilia, were being raised under that cloud of suspicion. No one was completely certain who had fathered them. Into this tense atmosphere came a new maid, arriving only weeks before the murders. Her predecessor had abruptly quit, insisting the farmhouse was haunted, describing footsteps in the attic and the unmistakable feeling that someone was watching her at night. Warnings in the snow. In the final days before the massacre, a series of events turned that already uneasy household into something closer to a haunted place. Andreas Gruber reported finding a line of footprints in the fresh snow, emerging from the forest and leading directly to the back of the farmhouse. No matching prints were going back into the trees. Around the same time, a set of house keys vanished from their usual hook. At night, the family heard noises above them in the attic, scraping and steps when no one should have been there. They discovered a newspaper lying in the house that no one claimed to have bought, and that was not even sold in their village. When investigators later took statements from relatives and neighbors, these details resurfaced again and again. They suggested not just bad luck, but the possibility that someone had already taken up silent residence on the property, studying the family and waiting for a moment to strike. The night of the murders. On the evening of March 31st, 1922, darkness fell over Hinterkaifeck like any other night. What happened next has to be reconstructed from the positions of the bodies and the blood patterns left behind. Most investigators believe that one member of the family was somehow lured or drawn into the barn, perhaps by a noise among the animals or a voice they trusted. There, in the dim light, the killer struck with a mattock, a heavy agricultural tool already on the property. One by one, Andreas, Victoria, and 2 of the children seemed to have entered the barn and been attacked in turn, each likely unaware of what had happened to the last. Inside the house, the new maid was killed in her bed, still in her nightclothes. The youngest child, barely more than a toddler, was murdered in her crib. There were no signs of a wild struggle, no smashed doors, no neighbors woken by screams. The killings were savage, but carried out with cold, controlled efficiency that suggests the attacker either inspired some initial trust or struck so quickly that panic had no time to spread. What truly sets Hinterkaifeck apart from other rural murders is not only the brutality, but what happened after. For several days following the killings, smoke was seen rising from the farmhouse chimney. Neighbors assumed the family was simply busy and keeping to themselves. When investigators finally entered the house, they found signs that someone had been sleeping there, cutting bread, eating meals, and caring for the animals. The cows had been milked. The livestock were not starving or frantic, as they would have been if left unattended. Somewhere in that small, silent farmyard, a killer had walked past the pile of bodies in the barn, tended to the animals, sat at the family's own table, and waited in the dark. The official investigation that followed was extensive for its time. Dozens of suspects were questioned. Forensics experts in Munich examined the bodies, even removing the heads for study, but the science of 1922 could offer little certainty. One man, neighbor Lorenz Schlittenbauer, attracted particular suspicion. He had known the family well, had a complicated history with Victoria, and behaved strangely when the bodies were discovered, moving them and wandering through the house. Some believed he knew the property too well, that only someone intimate with its layout and the family's routines could have killed so quietly and then lived there undetected. Others pointed out that his cooperation with police and the lack of physical evidence against him made him an easy scapegoat for a terrified village. More distant theories named former farmhands, bitter at Andreas Gruber's harshness, or a drifter who had slipped in from a forest and seized an opportunity. Yet the organized nature of the crime, the calm stay afterward, and the lack of clear escape traces all hint at someone who understood Hinterkaifeck intimately and perhaps nursed a deep personal hatred for its master. In the end, the case was never solved. The farmhouse was eventually demolished, and a simple monument now marks where the buildings once stood. A century later, we are left with footprints in the snow, whispers in the attic, and 6 lives erased in a single night. Whether Hinterkaifeck was the scene of a carefully planned revenge by someone the family already feared, or the work of a patient stranger hiding in the shadows, remains a question no investigator has ever answered. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to Cyber-Theo. Check out this video, the top 5 deadly World War II spy list.